Hello there, and welcome back to Doing It with Jason. I'm Jason, and today we're going to be talking about woodworking shapers. We're going to be going over a few features on why you might need one, what exactly do they do, and are they worth it? Let's get started. So most woodworking shapers are almost identical to most router tables. So let's just pretend this is a mini shaper. So you have your shaper table, and generally you have a fence on there, and it's a two-part fence, so you can individually adjust each side when you're cutting and taking passes. Now the shaper motor is going to be underneath the machine, like this, underneath the table, and you're going to be able to adjust it usually with a wheel and have it come up and down for your cutters. Now that is one of the big differences between router tables and shapers. The cutters, or bits. So routers, you have router bits, which have the shaft built into the actual bit, and generally they're 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch shaft diameter. So like here's a 1/2 inch, here's a 1/4 inch, just for reference, so you can see the difference. And now this router bit is actually made for like a raised panel, like mini raised panel. Now when you get to a shaper raised panel bit is quite a bit bigger. So now when we look at a shaper, we don't call it a bit anymore because there is no shaft on the actual piece, it's just a hole. So now as you can tell, one of the differences is the size. And along with that size comes a price tag. These will be a lot less expensive than the cutters will be, but you know, that's understandable. Now, one of the big reasons I would recommend getting a shaper versus a router table, or if you already have a router table, is it worth upgrading to a shaper? I would answer yes if you need more power. If you feel like your router table isn't quite cutting it and you have to make multiple passes, generally on a router table, you're gonna be making multiple passes when you cut with this bit. On a shaper, you sometimes only have to cut one time. Now raised panels, depending on the wood, depending on the species and how tough that wood is, I might take 2 passes and just cut 1 pass off first, then come back with a nice little thin final pass just to make sure there's no burns in it and makes my sanding life a lot easier further down. So now on a shaper, you have these rail and style cutters, similar to how you have on the router table, but much bigger, much beefier, and much stronger according to your shaper, and depending on what shaper you have. And these are only 1 pass. So you just run your rail 1 time, run your style 1 time, and you're done, you're ready to go. There's no multiple passes on a shaper for that, which is big on time saving. So if you're making multiple doors, I would highly recommend getting a shaper. Like multiple doors as in, I'm building a kitchen this month and it has to be done. So now I primarily use my shaper like 95% of the time for doors. I cut my rails and my stiles out with it, and then I cut my raised panels with it. You could use it if you make flooring and you want to do a whole bunch of tongue and grooving. Boom, shaper's ready to go. You lock it in, it's gonna stay there at that setting, and you just run the boards non-stop, all day running. It doesn't tire out, the machine will last. Router table might start smoking on you if you're doing a whole house of flooring. Wouldn't recommend it. Now you're making a birdhouse, then absolutely a router table will be your choice. I would never in a million years use a shaper to build a birdhouse. But that's not to say my next video might not be entitled, I built a birdhouse with a shaper. If you're watching this video and you do not have a router table yet, you might want to just get a router table, get used to that, understand how it all works, because it's going to help a lot more when you get the shaper. So now if you're getting into cabinet making and you're starting a cabinet business and you're making custom cabinets, shaper is one of your top 3 items and something that I would highly recommend you look up and buy. So be sure, let me know down below if you guys have any questions or something I didn't touch on a shaper. What can it do? I'm more than happy to help. Just let me know down below. Just kind of giving you an introduction to what a shaper is without even having a shaper in front of me. I just kept pointing at a router table.